Welcome back to Steele and Vance. Yes, we are going to be talking Surrey Police Services, policing in Surrey overall, and also Airbnb short-term rentals. Lots of legislative stuff to get to on today's program. So.
Right. And again, full disclosure, my husband is the chief of the Surrey Police Service. Just want you to know that. So whatever, take
and
that
we're going to
with
talk
whatever
about
grain
it.
of salt you want.
We're going to talk about it. So if you are going to freak out because Linda's going to talk about this, now's your opportunity to just tune out. If you want to know what's happening and you want to get how frustrating it is,
we're going to talk to Rob Shaw in a second.
But
let me
people
just
like
say
to freak
this.
out at you. I just want to say I'm a little protective.
Fine, and thank you very much. The reason we're talking about if you're going, I don't care what's happening in Surrey. Well, you should care because this is a provincial issue. There is a lot of government money on the table to force this through, which is all tax dollars. So let's just set the table. First of all, the mayor of Surrey came out last week, whatever, and she said, I'm going to go to court. I will not accept
this. That was Friday,
this.
yeah.
She said, I need to protect my taxpayers, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So then the province went, oh, yeah, well, we're going to drop some legislation. And they made some big amendments to the Police Act that would essentially force the transition through. Make sure that the Surrey Police, municipal police, were the police of jurisdiction, the RCMP, they could even get rid of the contract if they needed to do that. I can't see them doing that. But anyway, so there are lots of implications. The mayor's super mad. Oh my goodness, we need to bring in someone who knows what's going on from the political side.
He's officially our most oft welcome guest. He's our colleague. He's a political analyst, a columnist. You can read him at the Orca. Of course, you can see him on CHEK. Rob Shaw is back with us. How are you?
Hi there. Thanks for having me on.
I hope you're better than me, Rob, and you just wrote a piece in the Orca, which I thought was really interesting because it does. I think the province was hoping to box the mayor from Surrey into a corner so she would have to fold her cards, and she just keeps on fighting back like the Energizer Bunny. What do you make of it all?
Well, the province was hoping to end once and for all the Surrey policing dispute with this legislation, which, when it's passed, will put into law that the Surrey Police Service is the police service of record, and it will also give the province the power to get rid of the police board, including the mayor who is on the police board, if they don't move forward with the transition to Surrey Police. So that is potentially the hammer that will end the policing dispute once and for all. If you're the mayor, you don't believe that the province has the authority, even under this law, to do that, and you intended to drag it out to court. I think Premier David Eby offered a bit of an olive branch this week. He was playing good cop. He was asked if there's any more money available for Surrey. The mayor continues to complain about the cost to taxpayers, and he said, well, there are additional costs, and the mayor fought a good fight. Let's sit down and talk it out. And I think that is an opening for the city and the mayor, if they want, to bring this to an end and get a better deal if they want.
The key being if they want.
If they want, it'll be interesting to see, because up to this point, that has not been the case, apparently. Rob, I want to ask, just in terms of what it means to other jurisdictions around the province, right? Like, baked into this legislation is a lesson learned in Surrey about if a township or municipality says they want to make a transition to a different force, there's no going back.
No more flip-flopping.
Right. Two lessons learned in the Surrey debate. And one is you need to clarify the powers of the province, because otherwise another municipality is going to challenge BC in the future. And so you have to make it clear that if you choose to go down the route of changing your police department, you have to see it through. You can't back out. And also there's a bunch of other things in this bill. For example, you have to give the provincial government the information that it wants on policing. You can't make them sign a non-disclosure agreement or hide it or fight about it. That's another lesson from Surrey. And both of those will make it, I think, more difficult, or at least more secure, if a community wants to change its police force.
Just the one thing I wanted to say, well, actually, too, with the police board and the idea that they could get rid of them, it's not the board that's holding up the transition. The board is fully on board. The only person on the board who's not is the mayor, and she carries a big stick. The other thing is that the the federal government is looking potentially at getting the RCMP out of contract policing, which would mean that in Surrey and all other municipalities that are, seeing the RCMP as their policing, they may be gone, which is why they need this clarity in the legislation.
There's so much here. Yeah. There's so much here. Rob, let's go to Airbnb and short-term rentals. We always say Airbnb, but it's all short-term rentals. What's new from the province on limiting these?
Well, I mean, it's a very complicated piece of legislation the government's brought in on short-term rentals, but boil it down basically to one thing. If you own multiple properties in big cities in this province, you can't rent them out as short-term rentals anymore. because the government has brought in this provision that in the big urban centers, places with more than 10,000 people, it's tied, your ability to rent on Airbnb or VRBO is tied to your one principal residence. And that means you need to live there. And there's a definition on what that is. There's a tax linkage from the CRA on what your principal residence is. But it means if you own 3, 4, 5 condos, a townhouse, something in another city, you can't rent that out on Airbnb. You can only rent it to a long-term tenant. That is supposed to end the short-term kind of profit of short-term rentals, according to the government. We will see, the housing sector is one of those ones. Every time government tries to legislate it, people find loopholes to keep making money. So the principle's there, and it could free up thousands of units, but there's going to be some, I think, challenges to that before it's in place on May the 1st.
And the other thing that people should know is that municipalities have the ability, if they're over the 15,000, is that what it was? They have the ability to make the rules even tougher. So in Vancouver, they're sort of signaling that they're really going to crack down.
Yeah, you can make them tougher. You can include or not include laneway homes and carriage homes and secondary suites if that's something that you want to do. Make it tougher to rent those out. The problem, I think, for a lot of people is going to be that it's going to be a bit of a patchwork system. So regional districts aren't included in this. If you drive out of a city like Nanaimo into the regional district, suddenly you can Airbnb freely unless they bring in rules. Municipalities that have a vacancy rate of at least 3% on rentals can opt out of this. You have the Gulf Islands that aren't included in this at all. You have tourism areas, and there's 14 of those that are exempt. So in Tofino and Whistler, you can still own multiple properties from another province and rent them in those areas because they're not subject to this. So it'll be confusing, I think, for some people, but the idea here is a registry for municipalities to know, fines that increase, and that general linkage to your principal residence, conspiring to eliminate the golden age, the rush of profit making on short-term rentals.
And my curiosity here, as I'm a total noob when it comes to short-term rentals, I don't do it. I'm not for it or against it. I just want people to be able to find a place to live and or rent close to where their work is, which is the issue, I think. How do you enforce these new rules? Like, is there a legion of people that are going to police this?
Yeah, that's right. The Premier pointed out, to enforce it up to this point, you needed to be an amateur detective. Going on the Airbnb map and matching the little dot to like an address you might know. What's going to happen is the province is going to force Airbnb and VRBO to give over all their data. There's going to be a provincial registry that's shared with municipalities. You're going to have a business license, and it's going to be double checked with your taxes. Also, there's a new provincial enforcement unit that will start later next year that'll be able to increase fines, including on the host. So if Airbnb is allowing an unregulated provider and doesn't take it down, they will get bigger fines than just the operator, who will also get fined. And the hope is that by fining the companies, linking it to your taxes, and fining the operators, you just make it too much of a hassle. Now, will this develop into a black market thing, like listings on Facebook Marketplace where you don't change money, you just list something and then you do it offline? We've seen that in other jurisdictions. It's possible that that's what happens here, but the companies you pay to short-term rental from are captured in this, and those are the big ones like VRBO and Airbnb.
There's a lot of money at stake, so people are going to be looking for any loophole they can find.
Rob
Shaw, this was awesome information. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. Anytime.
Thank you. Rob Shaw is CHEK's political correspondent. I know already there's blowback that some of the hosts are coming out saying, this is not fair. And everybody's going, yeah, don't feel sorry for you. No. I get it. It's an expensive place to live in this province, and people are looking for any angle, but it's the big hotel kind of operators. Those are the ones that really bug me.
It is a big ball of wax. And I think he said it really well there when he said the gold rush sort of moment needs to be, we need to bring in the lane.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. So many interesting things coming on. Still ahead, though. As the crisis unfolds in Israel, a prominent Vancouver rabbi says it is time for Canadians to pick a side, to choose good over evil. Rabbi Dan Moskovitz joins us next.